Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Mike and Laurent. It is Tuesday, October 12th. In this episode, France are the Nation League champions. Allez les Bleus. They weren't very good. There are no good strikers. But first, Mike, you subjected yourself to a moment of pure death like I did 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago and watched the U.S. men's national team lose for the first time in 15 attempts to Panama. Mm-hmm. What say you about that game?
I think the thing that I took away from it was there are so many things to think about that this is far cry from our top 11 and our best, the best team we could put out there. There was no Pulisic, there was no Reina. I had trouble recognizing some of the players in the lineup. But Panama away. You didn't have a shot on target. Just that's it. That's the headline. Like you got outplayed and outclassed. Now I don't care. Every player on this squad in this lineup plays professional soccer. Mm-hmm. Most of them play in MLS, which is sort of Mike, why are you spending your time on this? But they are professionals. They are considered that they do this for a career, and they did not get a shot on goal in 90 minutes in Panama. And before you go into, CONCACAF has some really tough road environments. That stadium was about 40% full. There was nobody fucking there. Like it smacks of the desperation. We were talking about it, off air, but the bottom line is the United States of America is just not deep enough to compete on any stage. And we thought that the opposite was true, this summer when they won that Who Gives a Shit Cup.
Yeah, but they played
all the also-rans in Mexico.
They won that backing up, basically. They were terrible, right, and they just happened to win.
Yeah. And it's performances like this where you go, Mike, even as a Tottenham fan, that was bad, right? Like,
yeah. So I didn't watch this game, but I do know what the performance looked like. It must have looked like first half versus Honduras, where it's ponderous, it's lost. Guys literally with the ball at their feet with their hands up, like, where are you? What are you doing? Where's the movement? What's happening? And I'm assuming that, for Panama, it's a big deal. They have that famous qualifier against Mexico. They made the World Cup last time and we didn't.
Yeah.
And they're going to play to win, and they're a good team. It's close to Colombia. That's a strong side. And CONCACAF is tough. Listen, a draw would have been okay, right?
Like, a draw would have been great.
They would have struggled and got their goal and whatever. I think the thing was, like
at some point, at some point during the game, we were down 1-0, and I forget who was doing the game on Paramount Plus, which is the other thing. The U.S. men's qualifiers is jumping around a lot of the different streaming services.
Yeah, everybody's getting a piece of the action.
Yeah, but do they really want it? And do I really want to spend my time on it? But they were like, would you take a point out of this game? They were down 1 in like the 70th minute. And the guy,
yes,
I heard the 3 seconds of palpable silence from the commentator going, what the fuck? Yes. Of course
yes,
I would.
Yes, of course. Exactly.
I would have said that when it was 0-0. I want
no, yeah. I mean, a point would have been great.
Yeah.
They wanted the 9, but they could have finished with the 7. But now this Costa Rica game becomes big.
Yeah.
Not that they're not going to qualify, but I mean, we said that last time. I don't know. I think the big takeaway is this. Whether Berhalter's bad, good, nepotism, I don't care about that. The big question that I have is the United States men's national team does not have enough depth in good players to be taking teams like Panama lightly. Like, you have to play your best 11 over and over and over again until you qualify. Then you can fuck around all you want. Like, this draw or whatever, this loss just makes it worse later. Like, Berhalter, you're not fucking in the Champions League. There's not a game next week. It's not about the league. It's just win these fucking games. Like, who are you kidding? What are you thinking? It's not your job to fucking develop players. Your job is to win this group, get to the World Cup, and then you can do whatever you want. You can have camps, because just getting to the World Cup at this point for the U.S., I think getting out of the group stage would be a win. Like that would be a big
certainly.
deal.
By the way, it often is because we often find ourselves in a really challenging group
because we're
multiple
low ranked.
times.
That's why you need to be highly ranked.
Right, multiple times in the group of death. Right, that's kind of the way that the dice sort of roll when you're in the situation that you're in.
And then so we talked about it really quickly about like qualifying from different groups, and I just was really super duper curious and had an argument with a guy about other countries and like populations of different areas. The U.S. men's national team has the easiest qualifying of any fucking country in the world. I mean,
aside from Oceania, I think.
But there's no big country there,
I know,
right? Like
I
guess
know.
like China is supposed to be, but I mean, when you look at Africa, which has almost 500 million people, there's 54 countries. They have 10 groups of 4 teams each. The first 5, you win your group, and then you play 2 legs to get in. They get only 5 teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think CONCACAF gets 5 as well, but it's in this little tiny group of 8. Like 4. Half the teams make it. So it's just like, if we were in Africa, we'd get killed. We'd never make it out of Europe. We're a mess.
We'd be San Marino if we were trying to qualify in Europe.
The U.S. could beat Sweden? No fucking way.
No chance.
Sueden's awesome. Like, it sucks with scoring goals. Right. Like,
go back to the Euros. There were 24 teams in the Euros,
and it was good.
How many teams are not as good as the U.S.?
2. North
right?
Macedonia, maybe.
I was going to say, you had North Macedonia, who had more spirit than any U.S. team has had, arguably ever.
Are we as good as Scotland?
Do we have anybody better than Anthony Robertson? Nope.
No. Nope. Do we have anyone as good as John McGinn? No. No, we don't. Like, he is a Premier League player playing every week for 2 seasons, carrying an up-and-coming team in Aston Villa. Like, Jack Grealish got moved, not John McGinn. John McGinn and his crooked face that has been smashed more times than he'd like to admit is a better player than any player on the men's national team. And that's a fact.
He's gotten into some bar fights. I love him for it.
I mean, maybe Tyler Adams can be John McGinn. Maybe one day, right, when his face gets smashed enough. Anyway,
but so hold on. Let me dial it back. Let me give Berhalter a little bit of credit because, let's be fair, Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, right, Gio Reyna, they're not there. I don't even know if they're allowed to be honest. All I know is that I watch all of these internationals. I watch Argentina. Literally, their players go, "Oh, what? You want us to jump off of a fucking cliff? No problem." Gio Lo Celso, right off the cliff. Whatever they say, guys. So those players have no problem living, dying, bleeding for the shirt and for their country. And I'm not saying that I need this psychotic level of jingoism from Pulisic and company, but he doesn't seem to want to rock the boat at Chelsea, right? And
I think he cares about the U.S. men's national team.
I think he does too. I think he takes 2018 extremely personally. But
I think the issue with Pulisic is he can't stay on the field. He can't play hard.
Yeah.
He gets hurt.
Yeah.
Just
no
does.
Yeah, I know. And Reyna as well, right?
He's 18, right? Like,
that's fine, but he's still the best we fucking got. But
that's not good.
But like, well, no, that's a whole other thing. But like you said, go to Panama, go win, right? Go take these games. I don't care if you lose to Mexico. I don't care if you lose to the Ticos. I don't care about that because it's the same thing we always say about the top 4. You don't have to win the fucking thing. You just have to qualify, right?
Yep.
I don't care. You're never going to catch City. You're never going to catch Liverpool, Tottenham. Just go be better than Leicester. That's all you got to do.
Please never, ever play down to Burnley. Like, whoop that.
That's just go beat Burnley. Just go beat Burnley.
So as much as...
just go beat Norwich.
Let's go back. Let's sort of make an analogy, right? Like, one of the things that was what Arsene Wenger used to do was when they were making the top 4 all the time, they never beat anyone ahead of them or around them. Maybe Spurs sometimes.
Sure.
They'd take a point here and there. They'd get smoked. That was their big thing. They'd get killed. But let me tell you, when they played a bottom half team, they put a fucking clinic on them because they passed the ball around them and kicked their ass. And they'd get their 79 points. But like, you know what? top 4, didn't beat anybody, never going to challenge.
Don't give a shit.
But we'll take that money, put it on a bank, and we'll make it to the round of 16, and we'll be good. Thank you.
Are you suggesting that Arsene Wenger should be the coach
of the United States?
Yeah.
Yes, that would be awesome. Actually, we're not good enough. He would try and make us play.
Okay,
and we'd get annihilated.
Yeah. But just think for a second about all of the chants. I would learn Spanish just to hear what the Mexican fans said about Arsene Wenger. I would. I promise. I would take classes.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
There's a lot of fodder there. Imagine if we got England in the group stage again.
It'd be amazing.
Oh God Almighty!
So as we transfer from Europe, the thing is I do have one thing is like maybe we just need to stop the hyperbole and just accept that our national team is not good and just kind of go from there. I think that's really the issue is just we're just not good enough, and that's okay.
No, it's and again,
we'll qualify and it'll be fine, and then we just call it a day and be like, okay, we got where we got, but we're not there. We're just not close. It's nice that we have players playing in Europe, but we're not there. And I'll tell you how I know we're not there, because I watch France and Spain, and I watch Spain and their 18-year-olds, and none of them can run fast. None of them are strong. None of them can do anything. But what they can do is they can play the ball with both feet without even thinking. And they bossed France for a half. It was boring, but super duper tactical first half. So this is the Nations League. This is what Europe created out of friendlies. And you know what? It worked. They play hard. They want to win. Who knew? When you put the good teams against each other, they play hard. And I thought Spain were really good. They couldn't break France down. France played 2018 France style. They literally look a half a foot taller than every single Spaniard in every position. And then I looked at the Spanish back line, and I'm like, oh, there's my friend Eric Garcia, the smartest, most clever defender I've ever seen, who's not fast, not quick, and 5'8". I'm like, you're gonna get beat. And
so invariably,
he did.
I was watching the pregame with Ian Dark, who I love listening to him on the call.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching the first half hour of the game, and I was like, I don't give a shit about this game anymore. I turned it off. I was like, I don't.
That's okay.
I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but
Eric Garcia was one of the storylines.
You saw them moving the ball, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. I just was like, I can't do it today.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It was boring the first half. The second half opened up after I can't even pronounce his name, Orazabal, whatever. He was playing the 9 for Spain. Their problem was they don't have Benzema and Mbappe, and that's why they lost.
Yep.
Benzema scored an amazing worldie. Mbappe scored what would have been an offside goal for all of soccer history, but now is not an offside goal. Ball played to him. He was offside, took a touch from Eric Garcia, who is too slow and not athletic enough in these games. And that's what happened. That's the takeaway I've been taking away from Spain, is that in general, their entire league and why they're declining in general, even in the Champions League, is they're not fast enough, big enough, and have the athleticism. They simply value something different. And the French team, with their, I don't have a better way to say this, and I'm just going to say it with the way I say it, is with the immigrants, with all the African immigrants and whatever that means, however you think of that, maybe they're bigger and stronger and hungrier and whatever.
Yeah.
They you see Pogba in the midfield, and you're just like, he just posts up on them. And Mbappe just runs like Eric Garcia. He just ran. Once he decided that he was going to run past him, he ran past him.
Well, yeah.
And just shrugs him off.
Just imagine Paul Pogba standing there. What would you say he is? 6'3", roughly?
6'2", 6'1", yeah.
Sure. And he's a brick shithouse, right? And he runs like a gazelle. He doesn't really get out of first gear that often because of where he plays on the field.
He doesn't have to.
But he doesn't have to. And he looks at it and he goes, I'm going to light this motherfucker up. That's going to happen. You know why? Because I want to.
But to be fair, Spain, when they do their game, right, they've got everything's moving around. They don't have to use their athleticism, and they do beat you with technical skill.
Listen,
but when the push comes to shove and the battle happens, and those moments happen with a big team versus a small team, they just get bullied. I see it happen sometimes with City. Sometimes, when Fernandinho's not there, I'm just like, oh, there's Rodri again.
Was it Italy that they lost to on penalties in the Euros?
Yes. They should have beat them too.
Yeah, they absolutely should. They were far better in that match. And that was Italy. That was Italy playing like the old Italian style, where they just
went Bonucci, Chiellini.
Yeah,
they were like, we got this. But it was really good. I really thought that the Nations League is a good tournament. You get to see all your players. We did have a lot of fun, exciting stuff. Like I said, Mbappe and Benzema are class. If somehow in the ether Spain pulls an athletic center forward out of the sky, which they seem to be disappearing slowly but surely. I think the last one they had was probably David Villa. Never worked really with Diego
Torres.
Costa.
Costa would be the last one, I suppose.
But it didn't really jive with them because he was a Premier League, like he was an English striker playing in Spain.
Yeah, but like, are you saying from like he was the most recent one though, right? Like not necessarily
he was the most recent striker who was clinical, but the way they played did not suit him. Like they wouldn't hoof it to him.
Yeah.
And let him do his Luis Suarez impression.
He wouldn't let him do his Mourinho ball shit, right?
Oh, God,
which worked so well.
I hated him, but I loved him. Diego Costa is just a man.
We talked
after
a lot
my
about
own heart.
this. Yeah. We talked a lot about this off air, and with our good friend, producer Chari, as we call him in our Twitter group.
Yeah.
There seems to be maybe how would you characterize this? Like a talent gap at the number 9
just
position.
A weird gap, in number 9s.
And what we mean by that is
of a certain cohort.
Right. Okay. So the way you characterize it is, it's not that there's not players; it's that there's no next world class, right? And maybe
they're super young or they're super old,
right? And maybe Holland is the exception to this. And fine, but if that's the case, he still seems to be by himself, in the sense that part of this we were talking about it, and we think that it has to do with players in that, I guess, 1 foot out the door genre, or I guess they're in that class, I should say,
that prime to late prime.
They're hanging on. Now, I mean, how old is Benzema? Is he above
34?
Is he? Okay. Because I was thinking about this. I'm like, well, Kane's only 27, right? So can he really count?
He's the one. He's the one.
He's the in-between, realistically.
Right, but he's a 9. Like he shows other skills. But I think the thing to think about is that the 9s we're talking about, these scoring players, these strikers, whatever, they're not back to goal. They've all kind of started as wingers and kind of stay out there. Like Mbappe's a winger. Really?
Yeah, right.
Well, he doesn't want to. He's not a hold-up man. He's not Giroud, right?
Right. Okay. Wait.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about those. Forceful, middle of the field, kick it to him, hold it up, bring wings into play, and then get into the box and get on the end of things.
Yeah.
There's hardly any of them.
Right.
And that's the gap that's missing. That's what City was like. Well, if I can't get Kane, then.
Right, that's the perfect example.
Right, get anyone.
Yeah, exactly. City's sitting there and they're like, we need a striker. Let's spend $100 million on Jack Grealish. Okay. We need a striker. We're gonna go get Harry Kane, right? No, you're not. Fuck it. Like there was like
there's not a. I mean, I think the thing to be clear about is like I know it sounds cheesy to say, but there are levels to this, right? There's the trends at the high end, sort of late stage Champions League, where that's really the football we're talking about, where the competitions and the margins are so narrow. Juve, aside from the last season, wasn't worried about winning the La Liga. PSG's not worried about winning France. Bayern Munich doesn't care about winning.
Except that they didn't last year.
But I looked it up. That was a fluke. Like
it was a fluke. No, I know.
Scored. I looked at their XG plus. They were 15 goals over. Every single one of their goals was over. They were just lucky. It was incredible.
France did a Leicester last year, I guess we should say, right?
And they were good, and Maignan is really good. So that's fine because they don't care, right? But we're talking about that top level, that top group of players. Yeah. And where is that next group of strikers coming? is it because I think there's sort of multiple factors, right? It's wingers who have to press in fast passing teams that are now playing striker, and people aren't being actual strikers. So you have that piece. And then you have, are we developing them? Are they allowing them to play? Are they being moved? Are they becoming center forwards? If you have a decent enough touch and you're big enough, maybe they just stick you in the back. I don't know what's happening, but it is interesting. And I do think about one of the trends historically in football is forwards disappearing. We went from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, and now you have City playing with none.
False 9. Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting. It is a question to think about, like, where is this next group of traditional big men going to come from? It might just be Haaland. It's not Mbappe. It may be Benzema sticks around forever. It may be that those older players just stay forever.
Well, right. But even if it's Haaland, and Haaland becomes the next Ronaldo Messi-esque player, right? He's by himself, which I think is the important thing. But I touched on something there that I think
he has to compete with Mbappe. That's the only way to get those.
Sure. Goals. But what I'm saying is we're coming out of an era where we had not one, but two of the greatest players in the history of any sport, not just football.
They're so massive.
They transcended everything. They reset expectations. They brought players along with them because basically they said, this is how good you have to be to even be in the conversation of competing with me. And so you had, for short stretches, you had Agueros, you had Bales, you had Benzemas, you had,
Salah
different players
for the last few years. Yeah.
Salah, sure, absolutely. And even he is a fringe winger.
He's not a striker. He's a winger.
He's a winger, right?
He's a goal scorer, but he's a winger.
He's a winger with an inverted touch, just like Bale, right? So, there's not that next generation of players that's really ready and chomping at the bit to take over. But I do think it's partly because these players are still here, right? We're still talking about them. It's not like they're gone. It's not like, Thierry Henry left and everybody was like, we're next. We got next, right? Like, so, Wayne Rooney left.
The we've got next.
Ronaldo was like, I'm right here.
Yeah. The we've got next thing is always really laughable when you look at the guy's age that they're comparing him to. You're like, dude, Messi won the Ballon d'Or at 20. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
right. And
it's like the thing, 15 years of 40 goals. You're like, this is interplanetary. Although I do think that these types of players, like the influence of Ronaldo is being seen now, right? Like it's a 12-year-old 10 years later. It is Mbappe who was a fan. Like, so they may raise the ceiling and he was maniacal about his body. All those things could happen. Like, we don't know what'll happen. Like, I think the way I think about it is like Steph Curry became, he has sons that are in the league now. There's all these guys who play like him, and now, I'll shoot from the fucking logo. Yeah, that's normal. I'll hit that, no problem. And it's completely changed the way people play. So there's that piece of it that I do think about. But I do have
still a few years off from that really taking hold, right? Like it is the outlier.
It is concerning if you think, and this is a good Jordan comparison. Messi and Ronaldo are going to leave a massive hole.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like
a big. There's not anything close to that behind them.
But as they were coming up, the hole that was left by those in front of them, the Henrys, the Rooneys, the Ronaldinhos, right?
They were big.
Yeah, I know, but they were the other Ronaldo. They were gone. They were gone already. And if they weren't, they were hanging around for the paycheck, right? They weren't dominant at 36 and 37. They were there.
No. They were. I mean, Ronaldinho was gone. Like Henry was hanging out at Red Bull. Like the gone. Like this. The idea of 35, 36 is insane. Like Zlatan is a space alien, and now he's finally done at 40.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing is that I think it was the apex of like sports medicine and nutrition and technology that allowed these otherworldly, like planetary players to go from, all right, we're going to take the check at 31, and now they're at 35, 36. And in part of that, like you said, it sort of blocks players.
But just look at someone like Bale or Hazard. These are guys that got their moves at I mean, Bale's move was good. Like he came through. Like I'm not going to kill Bale, but Hazard got his move at 28, and it's a disaster. Right. Basically.
Well, all right.
Like he never kicked on, ever.
Robert Lewandowski is 33 years old. I just looked it up.
Legend. Right? He's fantastic.
He scored 40 goals last year in the league. In the fucking league, man. And I get it. Bundesliga is a farmers league, and I'm the first one to stand in line and talk shit about that. But the man scored 40 goals.
Yeah.
Like you asked in the group, you know, the Ballon d'Or, we should talk about that too. The Ballon d'Or, you know, finalists or nominees were named. And there was a list of like 15, 20 guys. Mason fucking Mount was on there. And you know, you were like, who should win? I'm like, it's not, listen, I am the card carrying like president of the Harry Kane fan club, right? The man had the most goals and assists in England last year, and it's still not really close.
It's not
right.
Close.
Like it's Lewandowski.
It should have been Lewandowski the year before as well.
Absolutely. And you know what he did? He went out and went, "Fuck you! Watch this." Right.
So he breaks Gerd Muller's record at.
But he did that at 33 years old, 32, 33 years old. That's not.
You have to be in a really good team to do that, right? You can't.
Well, yeah, but you also have to be but you also have to be one of the best players in the world, which obviously he is. But you have to be taking care of your body and all that stuff. Rooney he would have been showing up at 33. He showed up shit faced. I bet. You know,
I think Rooney's 33 now. Like I'm not even sure how old he is.
If I had an over under him, I'd say 40. But let's see,
dude. He's 35 now.
Oh my god!
35.
That guy aged like milk. Look at that. He's 35. Yeah. He was done at 26.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. It makes me feel great about 33, huh?
Well, I mean, that's the thing that I think about. I don't want to go into a Rooney digression. Is this like he might be one of the most disappointing players that I can think of, like only because he's compared to Ronaldo, right?
Right.
He never kicked on. He never got to be super fit. He was basically washed at 30. He started at 16. But look at James Milner.
He was washed.
He was in MLS at 30.
No,
Everton maybe by then. I don't know.
He was washed well before. That's not the point. But it certainly was. He's 35 now. Christ, I thought he was 45. Like no, I know. But so this is what I'm saying is that he had the opportunity and the resources, but I also feel like that really got into overdrive about 5 to 10 years later than him. And that's where you're seeing the Ronaldos. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the Ronaldos and Lewandowskis of the world. What I'm saying is that their opportunity has been, they've seized every second of it by soaking in all of this science, all this nutrition, all this everything, which has elongated their dominance from a small period or a medium period to just like a world domination period. Yeah.
And that's what allows you to become super famous and become transcendent, right? It's not Brady at year 15. It's Brady at year 20 when people go, I don't know a world without him. Right. That you become bigger than the league, right? Mm-hmm. Ronaldo's now like, I don't know a world without him. He's bigger than the league at this point, right?
Yeah.
He literally is bigger than those leagues. I do have to talk about something related separately from these conversation, but I have to talk about Scotland playing Israel because I've been sharing with you disco songs. I've been sharing with you Scotland fans singing I Like to Boogie. So Scotland beat Israel, their nemesis. They have a long history of losing to Israel. Randomly, Israel's like, no, we want to be in Europe. I don't know why that happened. Anyway, if Azerbaijan can be in it, they can be in it. Whatever.
Yeah,
who cares? So they win 3-2 in Hampden Park, which is the home of Scottish football. And it's the first time the fans have been in the stadium since the pandemic. And they're bonkers. The game has everything. They go down immediately. They tie it up. They have a penalty in the last minute of the first half blocked. They have a VAR controversy where a goal gets reviewed but then stands. They give up the tying goal on a ping pong shot, and then they win it on a shin-in goal from Scott McTominay. Oh, and a wonder goal by the aforementioned John McGinn. And the scenes at the end of this thing are special. And I think I need to play it, but I'll have to just have to give me a minute to cue it up.
So while you're doing that, I want to talk a little bit about our buddy Joe at Attitude of Gratitude Consulting. If you know the show by now, you know our friend Joe. He's helped us with Laurent saving for Aveline's college fund, me saving for my newly in the past wedding, and now my next venture is buying a house. I was just telling Laurent. So, I annoy the hell out of our buddy Joe so much, but I am going to have to call him again tomorrow and talk to him about, the best ways to start looking at and kind of digesting mortgage payments, which are terrifying. But do us a favor, go to attitudeofgratitudeconsulting.com. Like I always say, you'll see his phone number right there. You'll see his, his video hanging out with his kids. Really, really great family guy. He's going to take the time to get to know you and really appreciate what your point of view is and what you're trying to accomplish. And he's going to help you get there. So attitudeofgratitudeconsulting.com. Tell him Mike and Laurent sent you.
All right.
So Laurent, what do we got?
So this is full time. Do you like the Boogie? This is full time in Scotland. This is the Scots singing "I Like to Boogie," a 1970s song. And the backstory behind this, look at this guy singing "I Like to Boogie." So the backstory behind this is Scotland. One of the Scotland players, whose name eludes me, is on his stag do, and which is the bachelor party, and he's in drag as the singers of this song "I Like to Boogie," this weird 70s band that stole some music. And apparently he makes a video of him singing that song, and his teammates, of course, hammer him because they're like, "You're singing "I Like to Boogie" with your team." And when Scotland last one, and I'll see if I can find this one as well, it escapes from social media to the world and becomes their song. I expect that "I Like to Boogie" will now be the unofficial Scotland song forever, like "It's Coming Home" for England did. And it's just so Scottish. And I was listening to the Totally Football show, and they had this younger woman and reporter from Scotland telling the story, and she was just over the moon. And these are the things that, like, national teams that have these moments that, to loop it back to the U.S. men's national team. Can we have these moments? Can we have a national stadium? Can we get there against El Salvador in Columbus, where we have our songs that mean more? Like, it's got to mean more. It's not just a sporting event to go to. It's our, let me just finish. It's that third pillar. It's not team ownership and money. It's got to be, the supporters need to be the third in the Holy Spirit of this whole fucking thing. Like, we just need that because it's missing.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We have a shit version of it, just like a shit club, right? Like, we have the American Outlaws, who stink, right? They're just second best, man. I was a big part of them for a long time.
They wouldn't sing "I Like to Boogie" from a stag do because it would be offensive to women.
They're too busy clapping their hands, pretending they're in Iceland, or they're too busy. What's that shit? "I Believe That We Will Win." Oh my Christ almighty, dude. It's like nails on a fucking chalkboard.
I have something to say about "I Believe That We Will Win" that relates to the WSL women's scandal.
Please do.
I have a very scary and sad thing to say that worries me. So the women's league in the U.S. is in trouble, but an existential crisis. They had a coach who was molesting, grooming, whatever he was doing. He was fucking with the girls on the team, right? Abusing his power. Maybe some of them were okay with it. Maybe some of them weren't. It doesn't matter. You just can't, right?
Yeah, no, it's not something you can do.
And the women's team, few of the players related it to the commissioner, and they covered it up. Basically, we're just like, oh, whatever. And this is not because it's all men. It's a female commissioner. And they have this existential crisis. Are they going to survive? And I do have this sort of sinking feeling that the market just doesn't want all these teams. It wants 5 women's teams. It wants just a women's team. I don't know Like, what is women's sports supposed to do? They simply can't survive trying to be in the cohort of what men's sports are. If that makes sense. Like, you're never gonna you might not make $50,000 a year because it's just not there. And don't tell me about equity. It's just not there. Like, it's not there, right?
So no, it's not.
It's and it's not fair. It's not fair you didn't get 150 years of people playing. No. It's not fair that you didn't get to start in the 20s. It's not fair that Title IX didn't happen until the 70s.
Time out.
All this stuff isn't fair. I know.
No, wait a minute.
It sucks.
It's not fair if you're trying to. First of all, it's not fair if you're trying to compare your game to the men's game, which you should never fucking do. Don't do it.
Make it something else.
But if you're going to do that, and I said this in our literally second episode ever.
We got in trouble.
Wouldn't we? Yeah, we got some.
I hope they. Are you still here? Are you still here, fan?
Yeah.
We're still talking about women's sports. I want to talk about the Manchester Derby. Something happened I never thought I'd see happen in the WSL in England. That league's doing well, but now we'll talk about it in a second.
Well, why is it doing well, right? It's because it's Manchester City women and Manchester United women. You talk about how, it's not fair that these clubs haven't had the opportunity to be around from the 20s. Of course it's not fair. But you know what the smart ones did? They went, those brands are worth billions of dollars. That's right, billions with a B. They have 100 years, mostly more than that.
More.
Right? A lot of these clubs have more than 112 20 years of fucking equity and sweat equity and all of the community involvement and everything.
And England literally has an even worse thing. It was banned. Women weren't allowed to play for 70 years. They banned it. It's even crazier.
And I'm not saying for a second that I don't side with the fact that this is patently ridiculous, as I remember that my battery is dying. And what you need to realize is that you get to either do your own thing and swim or sink, and God bless you, or you use those trademarks, those logos, those crests that have been worth everything that you've ever wanted. You get to have. Who's the best player on Manchester City women?
Well, the captain is Steph Houghton, but
okay, let's go with Steph Houghton.
Ellen Page. Ellen
Page.
No, not Ellen Page.
Ernie Page or whatever his name is now.
I didn't mean to name check her. I just didn't remember the name now. The England striker. I can't remember her name. Her name's Ellen, but I
doesn't matter. What was the captain's name? Steph Houghton?
Steph Houghton. Yeah.
Houghton.
Awesome.
You would have a Houghton jersey in the Manchester City pro shop or club shop or whatever, right next to Kevin De Bruyne, right next to Phil Foden's jersey. That's what you would get, right? There's no question about that. So if you had, and I said, again, go back to our literally second episode ever. I went on this whole diatribe about it. It's actually one of the only times I've been coherent on this fucking show. And we're doing 108 episodes.
Yeah.
Okay? Where you basically have pick whatever league you want, right? The WNBA, stop it with this New York Liberty shit. If you are New York Knicks women, you're in Madison Square Garden. You're not playing in fucking Westchester. You're in MSG. You're hanging out. You're getting, you know what? The Rangers, I'll use personally me, right? If the Rangers, instead of the New York Riveters, which don't even fucking get me started with
that's real?
One, yeah. The New York Rosie the Riveters is a fucking team name. And if you would have had the New York Rangers women, and let's say they're playing the New York Islanders women, well,
that's rivalry game. That's real.
Generally, I wouldn't probably watch most of it. There's no contact in women's hockey. It's fine. Do I watch the USA Canada gold medal game because they're the only two teams that can fucking skate in the world in the Olympics? Yep.
I'm sure the Swedes.
It's usually skate. Pretty fucking good.
The Swedes can skate.
Dude, they get beat by 10 fucking goals. It's not even close. Okay? They do. It's just like every time. It's ridiculous. Russia, not even fucking close. But the point is that USA Canada on equal footing, roughly, and it's usually a pretty good hockey game. But the point is I watch that because A, I know it's going to be good, and B, I fucking hate Canada. So if you have this where you wean into everything that you feel during the Olympics, basically that involvement, that patriotism, whatever.
And here's the perfect example: Manchester Derby in an international break, City versus Manchester United got the largest rating of any women's game in England. They had 1.2 million viewers. That's bigger than any Premier League game in the US.
I believe that.
We don't get over 1.5 million to watch a Premier League game in the US on NBC. No chance.
That
was the biggest game. And not only that, there was a straight red. in a women's game. She went in hard and fucking put her spikes in.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I was so proud. I was like, yes, draw blood. That you never see that in women's fucking football.
And if you're
a straight red, I fucking loved it. I was like, oh, she got her like on her thigh with her fucking boot.
Nice. Like, and if you were watching,
like,
instead of
you fucking elbow me, I'm putting you in the goddamn morgue.
Now let me ask you this. This is important. If you were just happening by and you saw Sky Blue FC versus the Lady Red Devils, would you give a shit?
No, if they were called Sky Blue FC, no.
If they weren't
they have
affiliated.
To be Manchester City. Yeah.
Right? There's so much there. And even if you watch, if you tune in, you wouldn't have that involvement. You wouldn't feel like this is your club as well, right? You're basically co-opting every fan that Manchester City has. Okay, bad example. But like every club, all of their fans would have another thing to root for. Okay?
I mean,
we came out of sports not being around for so long. It was in this moment where I was like, yeah, I would watch it. I would. Because I'm dying for anything at this point, right? And that was a year ago.
Look at the girls, man. They are fired up. They get a draw down a man. They're fucking fired up. My team has had a bad season. So in the Women's Super League in England, basically 1 loss, 2 losses, it's over, right? So City have already got 3 losses. They're done. They had too many injuries. Too many players went down, whatever. They lost they already out of the Champions League because of Real Madrid. But, Chelsea is a fucking juggernaut and Arsenal are a juggernaut. And, hey, you know what? You know who else is doing well in the Women's Super League? Brighton
Ladies. That's it.
Oh, the Lady Gulls.
Nice.
But, I really do. I do like the WSL. It might be Anglophile again. I don't know. But the quality's better. It's still more accessible. The BBC actually doesn't condescend and bring up other shit. It's just like the women are playing and it's on. And the guys who cover it are just like, I went to the game. They don't have like, I know this sounds weird, but I'm going to say it anyway. They don't have like dedicated female reporters who do it. They just have Alan Shearer went to the Newcastle game. You're just like, oh. Like, they don't belittle it by being like, well, this is the woman's thing. They're like, no, the Guardian is going to have Barry Glendenning, who follows Sunderland, go cover this fucking women's game. And he's going to go, oh, this was good. And you're like, thank you. Respect it with, like, the best of the best. Like, Ian Dark doing women's games is good. Or, like, but don't belittle it with these. I know that
Julie
sounds
Foudy
weird. Maybe that doesn't make
terrible.
sense. I like her. It's fine. But they just roll her ass out, right? Like, it's just like, oh, it's a woman's thing. Let's get Julie Foudy.
Right, exactly.
Whereas you kind of want, maybe as a man for it to be covered, I want my expected coverage, right? It would be, if there was NFL football or like why doesn't Woj cover the fucking women's, the WNBA? Like, because there's no Woj bombs.
And that's what I'm saying.
But you would respect it more, right? You might be like, it's not separated.
It's because it has to be so segmented and segregated, right? And if it didn't have to be, if it was just basketball with women, if it wasn't women's basketball, it was basketball with women. If it's soccer with women and soccer with men, right? Totally different things, but they're just, they live in the same ecosystem. And you basically have the same clubs, right? They're basically, it's just another line in the P&L for Manchester City.
But the way that it's covered matters. Like, I know you want representation.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. And there should be women covering men. It isn't that it's not equal in that way, right? Yes. It's just that I want the best people covering the game, right? So
I agree.
When you roll out Julie Foudy instead of Stuart Robson, yeah, he's good, or Ian Dark, it cheapens it a little. You're like, oh, this must mean it's a women's thing. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make sense.
No, anyway. I mean, listen, there's going to be people who listen to this and go, you bigots, you pricks, you sons of bitches. And they'll
just do that no matter what we do, right?
Of course they are. But that's the opposite of what we're saying. What we're saying is this is how it's been done for X amount of years. We're also not saying it's perfect. But what we're saying is that when the biggest games and the biggest occasions happen, this is how it looks. And this is how it sounds. And what we wish for the women's game is the exact same thing. The exact same fucking thing.
I want fucking Woj bombs in the WNBA.
All of it.
He doesn't even cover it.
All of it. No,
what is that? That means what? That means because it's not important. If Woj isn't doing it, it's not important.
Exactly. And until you get a female Woj, you just get how about you have the other guy do it, right? So there's a lot.
That's what I do like about the WSL in England is they do have their top reporters are like, I'm going to this game. Like one guy was like, Rory Smith from the Times was like, I went to Chelsea women's and then I went to Stamford Bridge the same day. He just skipped town.
Right.
That's awesome. That's how it should be.
That's great. And before long, you won't have to go anywhere because Chelsea women are going to be playing at Stamford Bridge, and it's going to be great.
Because they're really fucking good.
They're really good. But like Spurs women plays somewhere else, and they play at the stadium like 2 or 3 times a year, and they host Arsenal.
So we're in this sort of like lane of morality, and I wondered if you had any more Newcastle takes left in you, because I'm sort of super curious about this. I don't know why football fans have to become the moral keepers. Like, why should they fucking care? Like, I've just been thinking about it a lot.
Well, who's the only, in the Newcastle scenario, who are the only football fans who are not suddenly moral about things? It's Newcastle fans, right?
Yeah, they don't
care. It's, no. What I'm telling you is, and you've told me this many times, everybody should have a sheik, right? So I'm mad at you because I don't have a sheik. So what am I going to do about it? I'm going to bitch, moan, complain about human rights violations in a third world country that do or do not happen. Of course they happen. I'm not denying this.
They absolutely happen.
They absolutely happen. But what I'm saying is exactly, right? The problem is that so there was just an NFL game at Tottenham Stadium yesterday. None of that money is going to be going to Spurs, which frustrates the shit out of me. But otherwise, what a clever way to fight back against the cities, against the big wigs, right? What a clever way to get literally just generate more revenue as a club and then punch back, right? So you're going to be punching on even ground or somewhat. But it feels like a fucking cartoon when you have Manchester City be the biggest and the richest club in the land, and then you have somebody come in who's adding a zero. Like it's not like we're on equal footing with Man City now. We're dwarfing you by, what did we say, 12 times?
Yeah, they have 360 billion versus 26 billion. So
I don't think it's the human rights stuff or whatever. It's the literal rest of the country going, come on, man. Like, that's bullshit. Right?
Yeah, I know. But you do get with the journalists who are all, for lack of a better word, they're all basically trained in the same ideological school. No, not baseball writers, the football writers.
No, but they're baseball writers.
Yes. They're holding on to this ideal, this community thing. Like, it's like, dude, what? You're not going to support, like, what are you talking about? Like,
I'm not going to vote for this guy for the Hall of Fame because it's the right thing to do.
Kids literally dancing outside of St. James's Park with mom's fucking kitchen towels on their head. There were literally dozens of them all dressed like Saudi sheiks.
Yeah.
Singing. Like, they were over the moon. They're fucking pumped. Now, buried in this, and this is one of these things where I get pissed off about the sexism thing. This woman, Stavery, whatever, she brokered the Man City deal because she's like a big shot fucking Saudi money dealer. She brokered a deal that got Sheikh Mansour. He wasn't going to buy Manchester City. He doesn't know he doesn't know where Manchester is, right?
Still doesn't.
And they have this other guy, and she brokered that deal. Then she tries for 4 years to get this Newcastle deal over the line. She did the initial bid of $300 million. With a different partner. They rejected it. Then she went back and got the Saudis. Then this thing, we have a literal fucking Ted Lasso owner has come in, a beautiful woman who was a model, now is a badass fucking financial whiz who just got this deal done. She's going to be the chairman of Newcastle United, and all we're talking about is the Saudis. How about this woman's fucking incredible? Like we talked about Marina Protaskaya. Like, There's women in football at the highest levels taking over teams at the best clubs in the world, and they're being buried. Like, this should be a fucking celebration. Like, hey, WSL, why didn't you get her as an owner? What the fuck were you doing?
Maybe a fucking commissioner.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
because she would have taken that coach by the throat and thrown him off of the fucking bridge. Okay.
Yeah. So there's these things that are happening that are just like, why there's narratives that are just like, okay, we want to talk about this. Let's talk about this amazing woman who brokered this fucking deal. It's incredible. Who's out in front. She's on Sky. She literally said Newcastle is going to win the league or the Champions League within 5 to 10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I don't know. It's weird. And she's been in football for 10 years. She's been a part of the 2 biggest deals in the world, transformative deals. Whether you agree with them or not, Manchester City completely changed English football and probably saved Arsenal by buying their shitty players for way too much money. Like Sammy.
So could you then argue that this woman has ruined football? And why isn't there more of an argument about that?
Let's talk about her. Fine.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that at all. But
that's fine. I
feel like that would be that would be a column that would get some attention, right?
Right. You want to write
maybe
that
instead of singing her praises,
the ruiner of football.
Right. Instead of singing her praise, be like, this woman came in and she fucked everything up, and now we have to deal with Man City and Newcastle. Okay, she's to blame. It was her. If somebody wrote that story, I think it'd get some. I think it'd get some clicks.
Is it PCP Capital? Wow, that's a strange name. Amanda. I'm going to say her name properly. Amanda Stavely from the North.
Yeah,
from the North. Yeah, Amanda Stavely from Ripon. Yeah, that's her. She did both the deals.
Mm-hmm.
PCP Capital? That is a strange fucking name.
That's yeah. Okay.
We're gonna you know what? I think we're gonna go on PCP Capital because the Germans used it.
Yeah, all right. Doc Ellis. All right, Doc Ellis, take us home.
That was the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast with Mike Salerno and Laurent Cortines. I almost forgot your name. We are the football wing of the Chop Sports Network, and those guys are recording a lot. We record on Tuesdays and Fridays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple or anywhere else, please rate and review the show because it makes a difference. And yes, I can boogie.